Al-Alim al-Hakim, continuing our discussion over the rulings and issues of Ramadan and fasting. We stopped, I believe, on the intention. And what is obligatory when someone wants to fast? What's the intention that's obligatory? And when is it supposed to be made? The intention is fasting Ramadan, fulfilling the obligation of Ramadan. Now, when the individual has to intend, the opinion or the act that has more reward is to renew it every day. But if one were to say, I'm going to fast all of Ramadan before Ramadan starts, then that's enough. Now, what are the technical actions of fasting? What can we not do? We said that fasting is to withhold from something. So what is that in which we are obligated to withhold from? We are obligated to withhold anything from entering our throat. Not the mouth, the throat. Because in the Arabic language it says al-jawf. The word jawf means that which is hollow. So it's referring to the organs inside, because it's hollow. Specifically the esophagus, because that's what leads to the stomach. So we are obligated from withholding anything from entering our mouth, our throats, even if it's something not edible. So for example, if someone were to inhale the smoke or smog coming out of a car's exhaust or muffler, right? He intentionally did that. That breaks fast, because now something entered their esophagus. If someone were to take dirt and put it in their mouth and swallow it while fasting intentionally, then they have broken their fast. If they were to take a fly and swallow it intentionally, they broke their fast. So it's not food or drink, it's anything from entering the esophagus, even if something not edible, even if something disgusting. Whether it's fluid or a solid, whether it's smoke or anything in between. Now, the one who breaks their fast by intaking an object is the one who does it on purpose and does it on purpose knowing what he's doing. Okay? On purpose, intentionally, with knowledge. It's in his mind that he's fasting. He didn't forget for that moment. So the first condition is that it's intentional. Someone's riding a bike and a fly just happens to enter their mouth and they swallow it. Is that intentional? It's not intentional. Therefore, it doesn't break fast. Someone is swimming. They're exercising, they're swimming while fasting. Water gets in their mouth unintentionally. Does that break fast? It doesn't. So you're allowed to swim so long. You're taking a shower. And no doubt, water, it's very common that water enters the mouth or the nose. And does that break fast? Huh? No. Say it doesn't so long as it's not intentional. But if someone's taking a shower, opening his mouth, it's hot outside, it's really nice, right? That's not allowed, obviously, that breaks fast. So the first condition is that it needs to be intentional. The second one, he's aware that he's fasting, or he or she is fasting. Meaning if someone were to intentionally drink during Ramadan while fasting, but they forgot that they're fasting. This happens a lot, we know, right? They forgot that they're fasting. Does this break fast? It doesn't break fast. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ was asked about this and he said it's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, you got a little bonus to boost you the rest of the day. So the first condition needs to be intentional. The second one, and you need to be aware that you're fasting. If one of those two isn't there, then you don't break fast. And all the imams and shuyukh, they tell their congregants, if you don't know whether you broke your fast or not, continue fasting and ask. Because a lot of times what happens is that they thought they broke their fast, when really they didn't, but they end up eating and drinking, say, oh, I broke my fast, why should I continue fasting? Right? If that happens, now they intentionally broke their fast. And we can't just tell them, just make up a day. No, now you have to pay the expiation. Now you have to, now there's a big fine with that. You're either going to fast 60 days, or you're going to feed 60 poor people. And over here in America, it's $10 a person, so that's $600. So if you don't know, you're not sure whether you broke your fast or not, continue fasting and ask. Come to me and ask. Go to any sheikh and ask. Do not break your fast. Continue fasting. Okay? Now, if someone is forced to break their fast, someone comes, some Islamophobic individual, with his weapon and says, oh, you're fasting, it's Ramadan, right? You're going to break your fast. I'm going to force you to break your fast. Come to me to McDonald's, drink and eat, entire meal. And he has a weapon pointed at you. What do? Eat and drink. Your life is more important than that fasting. Now look at the ease of Islam. That eating and drinking, you're forgiven for it. Continue fasting the rest of the day, you don't have to make up your fast. Because you were forced to eat. It wasn't by your intention. Another example for those who have, for example, asthma or some sort of condition. Right? Now they're choking because their esophagus closed, is tightened, and they need their inhaler, and they're fasting. What do? If they're in need of it, take the inhaler and continue fasting the rest of the day. Even though technically the inhaler, something enters the throat and it breaks it fast. Because now you are forced to do it, it's out of your hands, right? You are coerced in doing this, you're forgiven for it. And we talked about the one who forgets. What about the one who is ignorant? Someone is new to Islam. They know about Ramadan, but they don't know that, for example, they thought it's just food. They're used to Lent. They're formerly a Christian. They're used to Lent. They think it just, you withhold from one thing, or just from food, not from water. And they were drinking all day. Out of ignorance, they don't know. What do we say to them? We say that you are forgiven for this, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives the one who's ignorant. Now, if someone who's been a Muslim 60 years and says, oh, I thought it was just one thing, we say no. You broke your fast intentionally. We don't accept that, because you know very well what Ramadan is. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. Right? In the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts the supplication of the believers when they say, oh Allah, don't hold us accountable for that which we forgot and that which we made a mistake over. So if you forgot and you drank and you ate during Ramadan, you're forgiven for that. If you made a mistake, you are forgiven for that as well. Now, what are the passages to the human body which are not allowed during Ramadan for objects to enter? There are 6 passages which the scholars spoke about. Pay attention to this, 6 passages. Number 1, the mouth, obviously. Number 2, the nose. Number 3, the eyes. Number 4, the ears. Number 5, the genitals. And number 6, the rectum. These are the 6 passages. What didn't the scholars mention? The skin. That which enters the body through the skin. They didn't even talk about it. And unfortunately today you hear from many that you can't take shots. That breaks your fast. It's absolutely not true. There's nothing that the scholars said about this. In fact, there was a certain remedy back in the day in which they would put some sort of herb in water, and they'd put the foot or feet of the individual in that water. Okay, and they'd say we would taste it in our throats. So it's entering the body. And they asked the scholars, does that break fast? They said no, because skin isn't a passageway which breaks fast. But they spoke about these 6. Again, let me go over them. The mouth, the nose, the eyes, the ears, the genitals, and the rectum. Okay, these are the 6 passages, and scholars differ. They all agreed on 2, the mouth and the nose. Every scholar agreed that anything that enters through the mouth or through the nose breaks fast, if it's intentional. They differ over the other four. The opinion that which I take, which the evidence is on, is that it's just the mouth and the nose. Whatever enters through the ears and the eyes, it doesn't break fast. There is no evidence for textual evidence. Number two, the amount that enters the throat is so little, the Sharia normally overlooks that amount. It's so small, the percentage-wise. What I hear from those who did research on this topic and physicians. So when you put eardrops or eye drops, the amount that enters the throat is so little, the Sharia normally looks over that. Whereas the mouth and nose, it's different. Okay? So if you have to take eye drops or eardrops while fasting, go ahead, it's no problem. But you cannot do through the mouth or through the nose. And when you make wudu, don't overdo it. When you're making wudu while fasting and you're washing your mouth and your nose, don't overdo it. Put a little bit, wash it out, and release it. But don't exaggerate like you do in outside of Ramadan. Now a few issues regarding fasting we spoke about before, but we'll mention again, is the mucus. Sometimes mucus build up in the throat or in the nose. It's constantly going down if you have some sort of cold. Right? Does that break the fast? No, it doesn't break the fast so long as it doesn't exit the body. So if mucus exits the nose and now it's visible to someone else, or it exits the mouth and it's visible to someone else, you cannot take it back in and swallow it. Does that make sense? Okay. However, if it doesn't, it's not visible, it doesn't come out of the body, and you're just continuously swallowing it, right? That's fine, it doesn't break fast. Another issue is the hujama. What's it called in English? When they use the cups. Cupping? Yeah, the cupping. Pretty much they put cups on some sort of part of the body, and they suck blood out, so that the body renews blood. Okay, that's called hujama. It was a pretty common practice until this day in the Arab world. There is a hadith that says the one who performs hujama and the one who does hujama on themselves, they break fast. And the scholars explain that it means that what happens is when you lose that blood while fasting, you become very weak. And one who's in that state, it might take him to actually break their fast. So the Prophet ﷺ was describing a reality and not a ruling. The scholar said it's disliked because it weakens the individual, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to be performing acts of worship, to read Quran, to use this time to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and gain that reward, because it's a blessed time and rewards are increased. Are there any questions? If anyone has the questions, raise their hand. You don't have to wait for me to stop.
Brushing of teeth?
Brushing of teeth, that's a good question. That's something scholars differed over. Because when you brush your teeth, it has a very clear effect on the mouth. It changes the taste of the mouth, it changes the scent of the mouth. Some scholars said it's disliked, some scholars said no, some scholars said it's fine. I try and avoid it. But here in America, obviously you don't want to go to work and your mouth smells bad. Right? So if you're going to do it, again, don't overdo it. Just try and brush your teeth. Maybe even if without using a toothpaste, if that's enough, do that. If not, use a little bit, just kind of freshen your breath and make sure you spit everything out. And likewise, brushing your teeth, because of the chemicals in it, it kind of makes you thirsty. So it makes things harder. So try and brush your teeth after you eat suhoor, after you eat before fajr. Okay? And try and avoid it. Again, it's at least disliked.
I was asking mostly for that concern. You go to work and
right.
Smell.
Again, I don't want to say no, and then you go to the non-Muslims say that the breath of Muslims is really bad. You don't want that. So just don't overdo it. Any other questions? Mouthwash, the same thing. Don't overdo it. Put a little bit, freshen your breath, and just make sure you spit it all out. Maybe mouthwash is better than toothpaste. Because if you wash your mouth, that's fine. Right? If someone wants to kind of freshen their mouth out or remove that dry feeling to the mouth, one's allowed. Even wudu, to wash their mouth, right? So mouthwash is probably a little bit better and a better choice than toothpaste. Any other questions? We'll continue. And how about throwing up? If someone were to throw up, then that doesn't break your fast, whether it's unintentionally or intentionally. If someone were to intentionally throw up, it doesn't break their fast. Again, so long as they don't purposely swallow anything back. And I don't think anyone's going to purposely swallow vomit, right? But just to let you know, because it could happen, someone may vomit and they don't know. And again, I reiterate, if you don't know whether you broke your fast or not, continue fasting. Because a lot of times you didn't break your fast. Vomiting? Vomiting does not break fast, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Alright, what about kissing your spouse? Right? The Prophet ﷺ, it's clearly narrated that Prophet ﷺ would kiss his wives while fasting. Right? And the evidence for that is that when you make wudu, you wash your mouth. Saliva is the same thing. Right? It's some sort of fluid entering your mouth. And know that when you wash your mouth, not every single ounce of water exits. There's going to be some. But the Sharia, again, overlooks that, so long as you take the means of trying to remove everything from your mouth. So kissing your spouse is fine. Again, don't overdo it, because you don't want to become overly aroused and not be able to hold yourself and then fall into something forbidden. And if someone were to wake up in a state of janaba, of major impurity, for example, they had a relationship with their wife or with their spouse, and they went to sleep without making ghusl, without doing the greater ablution, and they woke up after Fajr, and they are on a state of janaba, of impurity. What's the ruling of their fasting? Their fasting is perfectly fine. The Prophet ﷺ that occurred with him at least once, and the hadith is authentic. Now, pay attention to these two. Sometimes one is eating suhoor, and the time for Fajr enters, and they're eating. Other times, they break their fast, thinking that Maghrib entered. How do we deal with these two? When it comes to suhoor, eating before Fajr, if someone's eating and they didn't realize that Fajr entered, what's the ruling on their fasting? They are fasting. They are like someone who did something unintentionally. We said that the one who breaks their fast is the one who intentionally eats or intakes some sort of object. Number two, he or she is aware that they are fasting. They didn't forget. Likewise, the one who's eating before Fajr, they didn't realize Fajr entered, they made a mistake. Right? It wasn't intentional. As for the one who breaks their fast before Maghrib, there are two scenarios here. Someone is waiting for it. Okay, if we were to assume that we are actually looking at the sun, waiting for it to fully go down, fully set, right? And they made a mistake. Right? It went behind a mountain. They thought it went under the horizon, when in reality it didn't go. And they ate. That's one scenario. The other scenario is they thought they heard the adhan, or they thought the time entered. So for example, as time changes throughout Ramadan, let's say Maghrib's at 8 o'clock. Yesterday it was at 8 o'clock. Today it's at 8:01. And the individual thought it was at 8 o'clock. It didn't change, and he or she ate at 8 o'clock, thinking that Maghrib entered. In both scenarios, they are mistaken, like the first example of suhoor, someone eating prior to the adhan of Fajr. The same thing. It's a mistake they made. Continue fasting for that remainder, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept your fast. That concludes the various issues and rulings of fasting. Before we enter the the chapter of how to make up fast for those who broke their fast. Are there any questions? Go ahead.
One was when you said you wake up to a state of purity, and so you just make this shower.
Yeah, so the question
What
is,
happens if the Maghrib comes and you still didn't get water? I mean, you didn't wash.
well, the question is, if someone were to wake up in a state of janaba, or major impurity, right, and it's fajr, or you're talking about after fajr, or?
Yeah, you woke up.
Right.
As you said, after Fajr, and it happens once when the Prophet is
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry. So you make wudu, you have to make wudu
You
because
have to
now
make before Maghrib comes.
you have to make it before fajr because now you have to pray fajr.
Yeah. So
And you cannot
so
pray
as soon as
Fajr.
you wake up, you know you're gonna make wudu.
Right. So as soon as you wake up, you make wudu because you need to make wudu to pray fajr.
Right.
Right.
Now the second question was when you're eating sahur, there's time before the Fajr, there's imsak. You know, like 5 minutes before that. That's when you stop.
Stopping. So his
Like,
question is,
let's say it's the Fajr is at
I understand.
or 4:50. So you
Mhm.
woke up at 4:49. So you have a minute. Can you
Mhm.
still drink water?
the question is that there's this concept called imsak, which is you withhold from eating a few minutes prior to the adhan of fajr. You are legitimately able to eat until the adhan of fajr. Okay? So in the Muslim countries who actually make adhan on the speakers and you hear, you can eat and drink until you hear that. Until you hear it. So this idea of imsak, I don't know where that comes from.
That was my question.
Right. So I don't think it's practiced here, but it might be practiced in certain Middle Eastern countries.
What about if you have, if you're eating and then, you know, it's time for the adhan, do you keep eating them or do you spit it out?
Right. So the question is, you're eating and you're chewing on your food and you hear Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The time entered. Go ahead and swallow it and stop eating. Okay. Any other questions? I don't want to start the next chapter. We have 5 minutes left. Go ahead.
The difference between first roza and Nawafil roza. In Nawafil roza, the rules are more strict about the time when you can start or stop. And if you surpass the time, like in first roza, you can eat till the end of the azan, if you hear it. But in Nawafil roza, I believe, correctly, that you have to stop before. I mean, there's more strictness in Nawafil roza.
You're talking about fasting specifically?
Yes.
So the question is the rulings between a obligatory fasting day, such as Ramadan, and a nafilah, a extra act of fasting. So if someone wants to fast for extra reward throughout the year, right? Or the day of Arafah, for example, or the day of Muharram, Ashura. Are the rulings the same, or is one more strict than the other? Obligatory fasts are more strict than the nafilah. So if someone were just to do a nafilah and fast, they want to get a little bit extra reward. Let's say they didn't intend on fasting. They woke up, they prayed Fajr, and it's 9 o'clock now, 9 a.m. They haven't eaten anything or drinking anything. And they said, you know, I want to continue this day fasting. They're allowed to do that if it's a nafilah. However, it's an obligatory act, an obligatory fast, such as fasting Ramadan, or making up a fast, or fasting as to expiate for example, an oath. They need to purify an oath that they made, or something along those lines. You need to have the intention of fasting from Fajr to Maghrib. So it's stricter when it comes to the obligatory fasting than nafilah is a little bit more lenient.
Let's say you wake up and it's a shura, and you already ate breakfast, but you didn't realize you forgot, and once you realize that you still need to.
The question is, someone woke up, had breakfast, and they're fasting. They forgot. Should they continue their fasting, or
It's not,
is it break?
it's not a obligatory fast. It's consider Ashura or...
Oh, Ashura. Okay, it's not an obligatory. You're doing a sunnah, for example, fasting for a sunnah, or fasting just for the sake of reward. Not Ramadan. It's not an obligatory act. It's up to you. No, you have to break your fast. Unless you made the intention prior to Fajr. So if you said before, I'm going to fast, it's Yom Arafah, it's the day of Arafah, I want to fast. You woke up, you forgot it's Arafah, you ate. You can continue. You can continue fasting. But it's optional now. It's not Ramadan where you have to. It's just going out where you have to. When it comes to Nafila, it's more lenient. Now it's your choice. If you forgot, you can continue fasting, and inshallah you'll get the reward. Is that clear? Go ahead.
Can you read the Quran without the wudu on the...
On the phone, you can read Quran without wudu anytime. But what's not allowed is to touch the actual words of the Quran. Does that make sense? So if there's a mushaf, I don't have one around
Yeah,
me.
because you have to, you know...
But that's different than the mushaf. Now you're touching a screen. You're not touching the actual letters. So if you were to assume that this is a mushaf, right? You have these words, these letters. You cannot touch it like this if you're not on wudu. But you can flip the pages, for example. You can hold the actual mushaf. You just can't touch the letters. The phone is different because you're not touching the letters, you're touching a screen. Go ahead.
With the phone, sometimes we go to the restroom. We have no choice to leave outside.
No, so long as the actual Quran isn't open and you're not looking at it, it's fine. Okay? And the example is that you have Quran in your heart. Right? You can take out your heart and, right? So it doesn't apply there. One more question? Anyone? No? Going once? Going twice? Gone. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Thanks.